Right. Basically, we have finished the laws of the Metzora, of a person or a garment that gets this strange Torah condition called Tzorat. And the next week's Torah portion, which is called Metzora, this week's Torah portion is called Tazria. Next week's Torah portion will deal with how to cure the process which is used, how to remove this impurity. Long process, and it also has a lot of other laws. Also, it talks about if there's Tzorat in houses, and about the law of a zav. A zav is a certain type of impurity there's an emission from the body. We'll talk about that later. But let's talk about now this week's Torah, the Haftorah and Maftir. What does that mean? We're preparing for Passover. Passover is the big holiday. That's the birth of the Jewish people. Passover, Pesach. And that's a holiday of miracles. We're talking about that in great length and depth in the morning class about Chassidut. That it's the month where God does all the miracles, and it's the month of wonders that God and also God imbues in the whole creation these wonders, and in each one of us wonders. And when we do good deeds, they have the power also of wonders, and power to bring the Mashiach, power to change the whole world. And in the future, we're going to see these big redemptions and these big wonders. That's why the future redemption is going to be in the month of Nisan. But the whole thing began with Passover. And Passover is going to be in another, 2 weeks? 2 weeks, two and a half weeks. Not this coming Shabbat, not the Shabbat after, but the Shabbat after that. 3 Shabbat tot, it's going to be Passover. So Pesach, that's the big holiday of Judaism. That's the big holiday. Every holiday is really the big holiday. But Rose, this is the first holiday. And they start counting the months. And that's what we're learning in the Mimer in the morning. We just finished the beautiful Mimer about HaChodesh is Elohim, that this month is yours. Month to month. Okay, so let's go. So this week, therefore this Shabbos, we read, it's called Shabbat HaChodesh. Shabbat HaChodesh. And we read the Torah portion, the Shabbat after that is called Shabbat HaGadol. Shabbat HaChodesh. And we read the Torah portion which talks about how God gave the Jewish people this first commandment of counting the months, HaChodesh. HaChodesh is Elohim. This month is the beginning of all months. And we read about that. Here we go. So it's 20 sentences. So let's go. There's a lot of beautiful commentary here. And God willing, tomorrow we'll learn the Haftorah. The Haftorah is a very strange one. The Haftorah is talking about the third temple and the details of the third temple. The details of the third temple given by God to Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel. And what's supposed to be done in order to inaugurate this third temple, which according to the Ramban, we're going to build according to the Kabbalah and to the also in the Gemara, the Talmud, it's going to come from heaven, and really it's going to be both. We're going to do a little bit, and God's going to do the rest. And the Rebbe explains how this is going to be, but in any case, it's going to be. So there's going to be a third temple, and that's what we're going to talk about. That's going to be the subject of tomorrow's class. So let's go. Vayomer Hashem Moshe Aaron. God spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, and he said, what did he say? We'll go back and do the commentary. HaChodesh is Elohim. This month is yours, the Chadshei Hashanim, to the Rosh. HaChodesh is Elohim, Rosh HaChodeshim, the beginning of the months. Rishon Hu Lachem, it is the first of you, the Chadshei Hashanah, for the months of the year. Apparently very redundant, but God is not redundant. He must be telling us something. Now, who wrote this book, by the way? Who wrote this book? God. And God wrote the book. He wrote every single word. It's pretty hard to believe, but it's true. And God is speaking to Moses and Aaron. God spoke to Moses and Aaron. He said these words they should write down. And this is it. This is God. God wrote this also. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. So why doesn't it say, I said to Moses and Aaron? Why does it say God spoke? So the Ramban explains this in other places, somewhere else. And he says, because there's all sorts of different levels of God. And what's writing here, that's the essence of God. He's writing what these, so to speak, lower aspects of God that was able to speak and lower himself down to Moses and say. Okay, so this aspect of God, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, God spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, and he said, this month for you is the beginning of the months. The first it is to you for the months of the year. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, and they should say that on the 10th day of this month, that each one of them should take a sheep to the house of their fathers. We'll see this also means a goat. A sheep to every household. Salabayat. If there is not enough people in the house for a sheep, then they should take it. And what are they taking on the 10th day for? The Passover is on the 15th. So they're supposed to take it and observe it, look, check it out to see if there's any blemishes. A pure sheep, a male, 1-year-old, has to be from the kavasim, from the sheep, or from the goats. You should take it. Okay, and you should hold on to it until the 14th day. And then on that 14th day, you slaughter it in the daytime. When do you slaughter it? Bein Arbaim, right before the evening. And you take the blood and put it on your doorposts and on the overhang of your house, where you're going to eat this offering. And you should eat this meat on that night, roasted on fire, and also with matzot, with this unleavened bread. Unleavened? I always forget. Unleavened bread, was it? On maureen, together with bitter herbs, should eat it. Okay, now some of these commandments that we're reading about here were only for the Jews leaving Egypt. They weren't afterwards. For instance, putting the blood on the doorpost, that was not done in the future generations. And also taking the sheep 4 days earlier was not done in the future generations. But this of eating the meat roasted together with matzot and bitter herbs is yes done in the future generations. And we do it today also, but we don't have the meat. So we just eat matzah together with more. Don't eat it slightly cooked or boiled in water. It has to be roasted on the fire with its head on its what it says, on its inside, on the stomach, on its insides with the stomach. We'll see how this is done. Okay, that's enough for right now. But this is half of it. Don't leave any in the morning, and anybody who leaves it in the morning, as you have to burn it. And this is the way you should eat it. This is only for this generation, for the generation leaving. Those people leaving Egypt, they had to do this. We don't have to do this anymore. Even though there are some people that do it, that were Moroccan Jews, other Jews. You have to have a sash around your loins, shoes on your feet, a staff in your hand, and eat it fast, because it's a Pesach offering for God. And the blood should be a sign on the homes where you are there. You should see the blood. God will see the blood. Sorry, I skipped. Yes, I skipped one sentence. I will go over the land of Egypt on that night. I will smite all the firstborn of Egypt, says God, men, animals, and all of the gods of Egypt I will judge. In other words, I'll punish them, says God. Wooden gods, says that if they're made of wood, they would rot. If there was they were made of metal, they would melt. The blood will be for you for a sign. This is they took the blood and they put it on the inside of the door. And I'll see the blood because God sees everything, and I'll jump over you. That's Pesach. I'll jump over you, and you won't have any plague when I smite the Egyptians. And this will be remembered all the generations. You'll celebrate it, a holiday to God for all the generations, an eternal statute. You won't make it eternal. Taka. Chukat olam. There's a lot of commandments that say it's eternal, an eternal commandment. So somebody that comes along and says, the Torah has changed, you don't have to do anymore. it says, when did it change? God said he's going to do it forever. Or we want to say he changed that also. Could be. Okay. 7 days you have to eat matzah. On the first day, get rid of the chametz, the what's it called, the leavened bread from your house. And anyone who eats leavened bread, right, bread that raises up, as that person will be cut off from you. On the first day is a holiday, the last day is the seventh day is a holiday. Don't do any work on all of those days, and you have to guard these matzot, that it shouldn't come to become chametz, because on that day God took you out of Egypt, and you will keep this generation for all of generations, chukat olam, an eternal law. On the first day, on the 14th, in the evening, eat matzah until the 21st day in the evening. And we'll see, you don't really have to eat matzah every day. They learn the Torah is not to be taken at face value. The Torah is, in a way, shorthand by God telling the Jewish people what to do. Sometimes there's pshat, remez, drush, and sod. Each sentence has a simple meaning and a homiletic meaning and a deeper meaning. And others. 7 days, there cannot be any chametz in your house, any leavened bread in your house, because anyone who eats that leavened bread, what bread that raises up, will be cut off. Don't eat any leavened bread. We get cut off from God. Okay, let's see what this means. Let's look at the commentary. Beautiful commentary. Vayomer Hashem, that God spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, now when did he speak to them? This is on the first day of Nisan. 15 days later, they're going to be getting out of Egypt. Why did God speak to Moses and Aaron? So it says, Bishvil, because, just look and see here. Yeah. Bishvil, because Aaron asa v'torach, because Aaron, he took a lot of trouble, and he also made a lot of effort with these miracles. He was always he was together with Moses the whole time. Therefore, God gave him kavod. He gave him the honor and of this first commandment. Shekalalu, that he included him with Moses. This is the first commandment given to the Jewish people, right? First commandment given to the Jewish people. For all the generations also. In the land of Israel, it says in the land of Israel, outside of the main city, or maybe it means inside of the big city. So it says, Seti Medir, they're going out from the city. Why did he have to go out? Because when Moses prayed, just like to stop the hail or whatever, for this prayer, he had to go outside of the city. So he went outside of the city. Why? Because it was filled with idolatry. Davar chamor, because a thing like this, a big thing like this, getting the first commandment, for sure, he went outside of the city. The Balaturim, Moses and Aaron in the land of Israel, saying, and this right says, the next sentence after it says that God spoke to Moses and Aaron, and he says, HaChodesh hazeh, and this says that the Rosh Beis Din of Omer Mekadesh. What is this commandment exactly that was given to the Jewish people this month? To sanctify the month. That's the commandment that was given, to sanctify the month. What does it mean to sanctify the month? To declare which day is the beginning of each and every month. Each and every month, and of course, it starts with this first month of Nisan. And it was a big, complicated process. We talked about this before. There was the high court in the main court in Jerusalem. Eventually, this court moved all to different places. The Jews were sanctifying the months according to seeing, like 200 years after the temple was destroyed. They were still sanctifying. So it says, but how would they do it? People all over Israel would, as the end of the month approached, everybody would look up in the sky and see if they saw the moon. If they saw the moon, then they'd know that it was the beginning of the next month. So a month can either be 29 days or 30 days. On the end of the 29th day, everyone went out and they looked up in the sky to see if somebody saw the moon. If somebody saw the moon, they knew it was a short month. The previous month was a 29-day month, and these people would run or take a horse, however they would travel to the main big judicial court, which is in Jerusalem most of the time. And the court would interrogate them and ask them all sorts of questions, because there used to be false witnesses. And there were also people that made mistakes. Sometimes they would see something they think was the moon and it wasn't. But if they decided that it was valid what they saw, then they would declare that the previous month was short, 29 days, and that the new month was coming in. That was a new month was there, which that's very important because of the calendar, to know what day, right? If the new month comes in on one day earlier, then that means they celebrate the holiday of Passover, for instance, one day earlier. If it's later, then they celebrate one day later. So it's very important to set up this, and consequently all the rest of the months, if it's out of sync, so it means all the holidays will be out of sync. And that's why there used to be people that hated Jews. There's the Sadukim and the Sadducees and all these other people, and they used to try to confuse this whole situation and send in false witnesses. So they would ask them. So that's this. So it says one of the steps in this process of declaring a new month is that the head of the Sanhedrin, he has to say, Mekodesh, Mekodesh, he has to say. So that's why it says, God spoke to Moses and to Aaron. And after it says, this month is the month. Why does he have to speak to Moses and Aaron and tell them about the new month? Because it's telling you that, where is it? It goes, that it has to be that the head of the Jewish people, the head of the Rosh Beit Av, the head of the judicial court, has to say that word. Mekodesh, it's holy. The month is sanctified. If he doesn't say that, then it's no good. Also, another thing it says that Moses and Aaron, why did God spoke to Moses and Aaron? They were brothers, right? Moses and Aaron were brothers. To tell you that this testimony that's being given, usually testimony about money cases or other cases, whatever, is no good if the two witnesses are related. And this, it is good. Kasher B'Krovim. Moses and Aaron, two brothers, can give testimony. This month for you is a new month, is the first of all the months. Rashi. And God showed Moses the moon, and he said, this is a new month. This is what he showed him, the picture of what looks like a new moon. If it's pointed the wrong way, if it's the simple meaning is, this is the month of Nisan he's talking about. That's called Rosh Seder HaMinyanim. That Iyar would be called the second month. Sivan would become the third month. We're going to learn a very interesting, let's see, Ramban over here. Let's learn it. And this month, that God showed him, right? Showed him with his finger a month in the heavens, and he said, this is what you're going to see in order to sanctify. How did he show him? He was only talking about, he was speaking with Moses in the daytime. And so how can it be that he showed on the moon? Moon's not the daytime. So it says, Samach L'Shchia, it was right next to dark. God spoke to him. God only spoke to Moses in the daytime. So here we have, let's see how we get to this 1 second. There we go. Ramban. HaChodesh Ramban. Moses ben Nachman. Right? He lived like about 100 years after the Rambam. The Rambam lived, Maimonides was like about 100 years after Rashi, and Ramban was 100 years after the Rambam. So, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim, says the Ramban, this is the first commandment that God commanded the Jewish people by means of Moses. Lochin, therefore, it says Be'eretz Mitzrayim. Why? Because all of the other mitzvahs were on our Sinai. What does it say? Look, it says, Vayadaber Hashem El Moshe Lemor. That's it. What does he have to tell us where they were? Right? God spoke to Moses and Aaron, and he said all the other places doesn't tell them the place where they were. This one does say that God spoke to them in Eretz Yisrael. Not only that, we know that they were in Eretz Yisrael. They hadn't gotten out of Egypt yet. So obviously they were. So it's coming to, says the Ramban, this is coming to tell us that all of the other commandments were given on Mount Sinai. And this one wasn't given on Mount Sinai. It was, the whole Torah was given on Mount Sinai. This was given in the land of Israel. Oh, here's another explanation. Shabul Omer Be'eretz Mitzrayim, not in the land of Israel, but not in the city of Israel. That's what, I'm sorry, the land of Egypt, and not the city, the main city of Egypt. Like that's what Rashi said. Like the rabbis say, Chutz L'krach, outside of the city. It says it should have said the next commandment, I'll call Adas Israel. Remember, the God spoke to all the Jewish people here, like here. Abrul, I'll call Adas Israel. Speak to all the Jews. But it's coming to tell you that yeah, it should have said up here, God should have said to Moses and Aaron, speak to all the Jewish people here. Hashem El Moshe, Daber el Bnei Israel, speak to the Jewish people and tell them, right? And tell them about the month, and then tell them also about the commandment of taking the sheep or the goat for Passover. Say, call Adas Israel. Why doesn't it say that speak to all the Jewish people? Why? Because of a Moshe Aaron b'makom Yisrael. But Moses and Aaron, they are in the place of all the Jewish people. And that's what it says. HaChodesh says, lochem, to you, means to the Jewish people for all generations. Then afterwards it says, speak to all the Jewish people, shetzavem, that they should command them, that they should take the Pesach offering. That's talking about not for all the generations, that you should take the sheep only on the 10th day. That was the thing that was not done in the future generations. According to the Midrash, it says that this mitzvah of HaChodesh, of sanctifying the month, has to be from expert judges like Moses and Aaron. Therefore, it doesn't say speak to all the Jewish people, because Kiddush HaChodesh can't be all the Jewish people. They don't sanctify it. It has to be like people like Moses and Aaron. Why does it say this month is the month, the beginning month? Sheyimnu oto, the Jewish people will be called this month, the first month. And from it, all the other months will be counted. The second month, the third month, the fourth month, until it gets to 12, and then it goes back to 1 again. In order that we should always remember this miracle this great miracle of going out of Egypt. Anytime we mention the months, we'll always remember ourselves about the miracle of going out of Egypt. Right? Like we learned in the morning, the month of miracles. The Jewish people are based on miracles. Okay, and therefore, therefore, the months don't have names in the Torah. In the Torah, it's only called Chodesh Shlishi. It says Sheni's b'Chodesh Sheni. It says Okamo, and just like that are mentioned, just like in Shabbat. In Shabbat, we always say this is the first day, the second day. We don't have names for the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday. We have Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni. Like I'm going to explain later on. The same thing as remembering Shabbat, remember from the day that God created the world. So also the months, we remember that God took us out of Egypt. That's why he says the Chodesh Rishon, Chodesh Sheni, Chodesh Shlishi. This is only for the counting of the days of the year, of the months of the year. Shari Techila, because the days of the year should start from Tishrei. Like it says, Chag HaOsif, Tekufas Hashana, Tzeis Hashana, right? So the days of the year are beginning in Tishrei, when God created the world. If so, Kashen Nikra, Chodesh Nisan, and Shvi, when we call the month of Nisan, when we left Egypt, is called the first month. And Tishrei, the month when God created the world, is called the 7th month. Why? Because Nisan is called the first for the redemption. That's the first month of redemption. Something like the Rebbe said in the Maimer. The Shvi and the Tishrei is the 7th month from it. That's why it says a Rishon, the Chodesh is the Rishon Hu Lachem. That it's not the Rishon here. This month is the first month, and it's the first for you. What does it mean for you? For the Jews. This is the first month for the Jews. It's not the first day of the month of the year. Because it reminds us that it's the first month from our redemption when the Jews were taken out of Egypt. But we see the fact of the matter is that all the months of the year do have different names, right? There is Tishrei and Nisan and all these names. These are not Jewish names, right? Tishrei and Nisan, the Tevet. It says like this, Omer Shmot HaChadashim, the names that we have now of the month, Alu Mimam Bavel. They were given in Babylon. They were given to us in Babylon, which that's like, what, 1,000 years after the Jews got out of Egypt. So about 1,000 years, the whole time of the first temple, there were no names for the months. They were just called the first month, second month, third month. But after they were exiled, the first temple was destroyed, the Jews were taken to Babylon, and they left Babylon after 70 years. That was the whole story of Purim we just got up to. About 1,000 years after the Torah was given, then they got names for the months. Because in the beginning, they didn't have any names of the months. And the reason is that in the beginning, they would count from going out of Egypt. But when they left Babylon, then they fulfilled what it said, the prophet Jeremiah. You won't say anymore, living is the God who took the Jews out of Egypt, but they'll say, living is the God that took us out from the land of the north. Others from Babylon. If you know the story over there, we talked about it before when we talked about Purim, is the Nebuchadnezzar, he took the Jews out of destroyed the temple, took the Jews out of Israel and brought them into exile. And then after that, there was the King Koresh. And King Koresh, he defeated Nebuchadnezzar, and he was the one he was from Persia, and he returned the Jews back to Israel. So when the Jews went back, so they started calling names of the months, the names that were in Babylon, to remind us that miraculously we got out of Babylon. Lazkiriki Sham Odenu Sham Amadnu, because that's where we were. V'Sham Elonu Hashem, and God took us out of Babylon as well. Ke'elu Hashem was because these names that we have, Nisan, Ir, etc. These are, and also in addition to them, a lot of these are Persian names. They're only, these names are not found in the 5 books of Moses, only in the prophecies, like in Zechariah, the prophets that lived in Babylon, like Zechariah, Ezra, Nehemiah, Megillus Esther, it says, Chodesh Rishon, Chodesh Nisan, it says. And therefore, Omer Katuv, the Torah says, Chodesh Rishon, Chodesh Nisan, who he built poor. That's when Haman threw the lots. The Od Hayom Hagoyim B'Artzos Pras Madai Kach Haim Korim Otam, and even to this very day, so says the Ramban, that the non-Jews that live in Persia and in Greece, they call the months Nisan and Tishrei. Is that so? I don't know. I mean, the Ramban was like 800 years ago. So, go and ask. Find 807 or whatever years ago. So I don't know if it still is that way now. He says that back then that's how it was. That in Persia and in Greece they call the names of the month these the names that we Jews call them because they're not Jewish names. But the word we want to remember the month of redemption. Hashanit, the second redemption. Kasher Osinu Adhena, like we did with the first one. So first of all, we're taken out of Egypt. That was a big miracle. And then the Jews again were taken into captivity in Babylon. And that was also a miracle that we got out, even though it wasn't with, all these plagues and miraculous things, but it still is completely above nature that we left this country. Let's just do the OrHaChaim. We won't be able to make much progress as far as the commentaries go, but let's do what we can. Come, let's go. These commentaries are just so beautiful that it's difficult to jump over them. Okay, OrHaChaim. Chodesh hazeh lachem. What do we have the sentence? Let's look and see the sentence again. HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodeshim. This month to you is the beginning of the months. Beginning of the months. Rishon hu lachem l'chadshes shana. It is the beginning for the months of the year. So that's a bit redundant, right? This month is the beginning of months. The first it is to you of the months of the year. What's the difference? Why does that say it twice? So he addresses this. Now again, we have to remember this is God writing this, right? So he says, Tam kefal rosh chodeshim. The reason why it says this is the beginning of the months and the first of the months it is to you, the intention is to say like this. This month is Rosh. What does it mean, Rosh? It means it's the chosen, it's the special one. It's not just the first. This is the special, the best of all the months. Like it says, Besamim Rosh, like the best of the incense. And therefore it says, Lachem to you. Ke'enu meshubach u'ma'ula shebechadashim, because it's only the best and the choice of the months only to the Jews. To the other nations, it's a month like every other month. Timsa, so comes out, She'omer Rabbeinu, that the rabbis say in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, B'Nisan Nigalu, in the month of Nisan, we were redeemed. B'Nisan, in the month of Nisan, we got taken out of Egypt. And the Nisan Atzirim Ligael, and in Nisan there's going to be the future redemption, which hopefully there won't be future; it'll be right now. the OrHaChaim, he lived in the time of the Baal Shem Tov. This was like 350 years ago. Ki achodesh misayem l'tovet Yisrael, because this month is a month which is good for the Jews. Al zeh rishon, therefore rishon hu lachem, therefore it is the first to you. Name what it means. What does it mean? Roy liot lachem. It should be it's fitting for you that you should be counting all the months from Nisan because it's so good. It's like the head of a person's body. The head is the whole essence of the body. Same thing, Nisan is the head of the rest of the years. So therefore we count from it because it's the most important month of the year. We can say the most Jewish month of the year. God showed himself. And that's what's going to be in the future. Ba'od, Yirmaz, Ba'omer, when it says HaChodesh hazeh, when it says this month, and it doesn't say Chodesh, it says HaChodesh. HaChodesh means, when it says HaChodesh, it means the month. This is the month. Ramaz, this hints at the known month. Right? Like if I say this is the pencil, the pen. The pen. What do you mean the pen? What do you mean the pen? Either it means it's the pen. This is the pen that signed the Declaration of the. This is the pen, the ultimate pen. Right? What does that mean? The ultimate pen. What does it mean? It means it can do anything. It never runs out of ink. It never makes mistakes. This is the ultimate. Same thing. This is the month. HaChodesh. The Ramos tell you that this is the known month. Shehu HaKodesh Baruch Hu, that this is the month of the one. What's the one? God. Like it says, Ze Keli Vanveu. This is God, and I will praise. Ki yiyeh ze lachem shigaleh. So one second. Oh, I'm sorry. He makes. Please, I made a mistake. He's stressing the word hey. That's true. Hey, he says, but also hazeh. like the Rebbe said in the Mimer in the morning, remember, is that this month, this is the month. Where does it say this? When it says this, who is referring to? It's referring to God. Like it says, Zeh Keli, this is my God. This month is yours. It's the month when God revealed himself. It says, Rosh Shivcha Liyam. This is the month 7 days after they left Egypt. It's the last day of Passover. It says that that was when they crossed over the sea. It says that even the most simple Jew saw visions of God that even the greatest prophets did not see. Zeh, says they pointed, says Zeh Keli, this is my God. Od, also it's hinted at, Ki HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh. This month to you is the head. What does it mean, head? Sheyeh Yisrael, it will be for the Jewish people, Kinoi bechinas harosh. Shelo ya'od nivazim, that the Jewish people will be at the head. The Jewish people will be at the head. When the Jewish people remember that God chose us, took us all out of Egypt, so the Jewish people will no longer be condemned. How do you say low, disgraced, like they are now in the United Nations and all this, right? They're always condemning us and disgracing us, and the Jewish people say, "Please don't. We're nice people. We don't mean it. We're not really, you don't understand us." So, right? The Jewish people should say, "Listen, fellas. The fact is, we are definitely aggressors. Definitely, the land definitely belongs to us. Doesn't belong to anyone else. It belongs to us. If people want to live in the land, non-Jews, they have to go according to the laws, like every other country. No, not us, not the Jews. No, who are we? We don't know nothing. We did this. No, if they would just remember the month of Nisan, as they wouldn't be low anymore. That God is what it's owed. It also, Remez, it teaches us, Zeh, what do you mean? This is the month that's the beginning of all of the months of the year. Zeh is the numerical value of 12. HaChodesh Hazeh. This month is the head of the 12 months of the year. All right, I'd like to do the Kli Yakar, but it's a bit long, and it's very, very beautiful. The fact is, okay, maybe we'll just do the last part of it, huh? It says, Rav Nasya ben Chara said like this, because the Jewish people didn't have any commandments to do, so therefore God gave them this the Korban Pesach to do, and so that was their merit. They had the Pesach offering, and they slaughtered to put it on their doorposts, and that was their merit. They didn't have any other merits. Says the Kli Yakar, Rav Lunchitz, it doesn't make much sense what it says over there in the Rav Masya, because it says clearly that there are 4 things that gave the Jews merits to take them out of Egypt. They didn't change their names. They didn't change their language. It says that they controlled themselves from being, the decadent. And they also didn't say anything against God. So certainly what looks like this, what Masya is saying, that they did have these 4 merits, that they didn't change their name, etc. But these commandments that they had were things that they didn't change their names, they didn't change their language, they didn't do any forbidden sexual things, they didn't complain about God. These are things that they didn't do. They didn't complain, they didn't change their names. They had to have some positive commandments to work with them in order to get them out. So it says that at the time when a person does a commandment, that it protects a person and saves him. And so therefore they had to have this salvation so that they shouldn't be destroyed by the destroying powers, whatever that came through in the night that they left. Therefore they had to have this Pesach and circumcision. They circumcised themselves. We'll talk about that. To work in them in order to negate those people that had faith in the mazal, in the zodiac power of the sheep, which that's one of the main gods of Egypt. So in order to negate this power, and we see it worked for the Egyptians were terrible idolaters, and it worked. They ruled the whole world, and things were wonderful over there. They ruled over the Jews for 210 years. We see that their idolatry worked. And God said, I've been patient with them. Now you're going to see that the whole thing was a big fake. But in order to do that, the Jews had to have some sort of merits, and therefore he gave them all these commandments, right? And that this month they had to take a sheep and etc. And so also it says that they had to circumcise themselves. We'll talk about that. The Jews had to circumcise themselves because it says that a person uncircumcised, he cannot eat from the Pesach offering. So they had to circumcise themselves the night that they left Egypt. Not a simple thing. As we will talk about, God willing, tomorrow. We'll finish this, God willing, tomorrow, and then we'll do the Haftorah. Haftorah is very, very interesting. Haftorah from Ezekiel, that it's not telling the Jewish people. Usually these prophecies from Ezekiel and from Isaiah, they tell the Jewish people off. They really tell them, you Jews, I've had it with you. You're just driving me crazy, and you're driving God crazy, and God should cast you out. But what can you do? He loves you. God loves you. The infinite love, eternal love, is not going to stop loving you. He's going to gather you all together. He's going to bring you all to the land of Israel. He's going to, despite all of your problems and everything like that, and you're all going to return back to God. But this Haftorah is not talking about that. This Haftorah is talking pure third temple. What's going to be the third temple, what they have to do to prepare for it, and etc. So tomorrow, God willing, we'll finish the last 17 sentences of the Maftir that we read on Shabbat, and we'll also try to get into the Haftorah and understand as much of it as we can. Hope to see you tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning for Chassidut. God bless you. Have a good day with Mashiach now.